It is July. It is hot. You are sitting somewhere climate controlled right now, and you have never once thought to thank the paper industry. You should. Brooklyn, New York, summer 1902. A printing company called Sackett-Wilhelms has been losing money one ruined sheet of paper at a time, and it's been happening every summer for 15 years. Their business is color printing, a process that requires running the same sheet of paper through a press multiple times, once for each color. The problem is humidity. New York summers are brutal, and paper absorbs moisture. The sheets expand slightly between each pass, just enough to throw off the color registration entirely. Ink bleeds, images blur, deadlines get missed. They try everything. They open the windows. The humid air outside makes it worse. They bring in fans, which heroically move the hot, wet air from one side of the room to the other. Someone suggests blocks of ice. The ice melts by noon, does almost nothing for the humidity, and now the floor is wet too. Nothing works. For 15 years, nothing works. Then the company hires a 25-year-old engineer named Willis Carrier. Carrier approaches the problem differently. He isn't focused on temperature. He's focused on moisture. He designs a system that blows air across chilled pipes. As the air cools, it releases its moisture. The humidity drops. The paper stabilizes. The ink lands where it's supposed to. It works! And as a side effect nobody planned for, the room gets cold. Carrier called his invention an apparatus for treating air. He submitted the designs on July 17, 1902. He was trying to save a printing deadline. He accidentally invented one of the most transformative technologies in human history. Let's weave it together. For the first 2 decades, air conditioning stayed in factories, hospitals, and textile mills. Human comfort still wasn't part of the pitch. Then someone had an idea. Movie theaters. In the 1920s, theaters started installing cooling systems, and people started buying tickets in July not to see the movie, but just to sit inside a cool room for 2 hours. Theaters put up signs in their windows that said refrigerated air. Hollywood didn't invent the summer blockbuster. The heat did. Department stores figured it out next. Cool the building, keep shoppers inside longer, sell more things they didn't know they needed. Some things never change. Offices came later, and the numbers were striking. A federal study found that workers became 24% more productive almost immediately after their offices were cooled. Not from a raise, not from a new manager, just from not being hot. Home air conditioning came last. In 1950, fewer than 1 in 10 American homes had it. By 1980, it was more than half. Today, it's around 90%. It went from a luxury for the wealthy to basic infrastructure in a single generation. And the way it was sold changed along the way. Early ads pitched it as a medical necessity. Later ones sold it as status. By the 1970s, the ads had mostly stopped trying. You knew you wanted one. Here's what almost nobody talks about. Before air conditioning, the American South and Southwest were sparsely populated, for very good reason. Phoenix summers regularly hit 110 degrees. Houston in August was the kind of hot where you step outside and immediately reconsider your life choices. And Florida, before large-scale drainage and air conditioning, was largely mosquito-infested wetland that most people had no practical reason to move to. Air conditioning didn't just cool buildings. It rewrote the American map. Texas grew by 170% between 1950 and 2000. Florida, Nevada, and Arizona exploded alongside it. The Census Bureau projected that 88% of all U.S. population growth between 2000 and 2030 would happen in warm weather states, places that a century earlier people left in summer if they could afford to. All that population meant economic power, new industries, new tax bases, new representation in Congress. The center of gravity of the entire country shifted south and west, quietly, powered by a thermostat. And the buildings changed too. Old architecture worked with heat. High ceilings, deep porches, thick walls, windows designed to catch a breeze. They were designed by people who understood you can't fight the climate, only negotiate with it. Once air conditioning arrived, we stopped negotiating. Buildings became sealed glass boxes. That's why modern cities look the way they do. It wasn't an aesthetic choice. It was thermodynamics. Europeans have air conditioning. They just mostly chose not to use it. Fewer than 10% of European homes are air-conditioned, compared to 90% in the United States. Some of it is cost. Europeans pay roughly 2 to 3 times more per kilowatt hour than Americans. Some of it is building design. Older European buildings handle heat better than they look. And some of it is just culture. If you've ever visited Europe in summer and bought a cold drink from a shop refrigerator that was just slightly cool, not cold, just less warm than outside, you've felt the difference. Ice in drinks is rare. Cold air in restaurants is rarer. It's not an oversight. It's a choice that goes back generations. Right now, thousands of tourists are in the United States for the World Cup, arriving from a continent sitting under a brutal heat wave. And a surprising number of them are posting videos of themselves standing in American grocery stores, visibly cold, looking simultaneously shocked and a little bit envious. They walked in to buy a snack and accidentally entered a refrigerator. One visitor put it simply, Americans might be onto something with this. That's the thing about experiencing air conditioning when home is 35 degrees Celsius and climbing. What looks like excess from the outside starts to feel a lot like civilization from the inside. It's not a quirk. It's the visible result of a century of infrastructure built around one assumption, that cold air should always be available, everywhere, for everyone. And now the Wunder Fact, the one worth texting to someone right now. The United States Capitol was not air-conditioned until 1929. Before that, Congress recessed every single summer because Washington, D.C. was simply too hot to work in. For most of American history, your elected representatives were legally on vacation whenever it got hot outside. Must be nice. Air conditioning didn't just change where Americans live, how they work, or what their buildings look like. It changed when the country gets governed. Willis Carrier set out to fix a printing deadline in Brooklyn. He ended up reshaping the map, the economy, and apparently the legislative calendar. Stay curious. From Cappy and the WunderWeave team.